Hello and welcome again. Into the final presentation of this section, we will talk about the people and not pipes. First, we will map the large social gains that flow from taking carbon out of heat. Second, I will show how the social pillar of sustainability, equity, health, quality of life moves into lockstep with technical decarbonization. Third, we will ask what behavioral shifts citizens must make so the transition sticks. By the last slide, you should see that decarbonizing heat is one of the biggest social justice projects of the century, and that every household decision either accelerates or delays success. Heating feels mundane until it fails. Then it becomes existential. In temperate economies, roughly 70% of domestic energy goes to space and water heating. So whatever we do to that energy flow echoes straight into household budgets. Respiratory health, even school attendance on cold days. So when we swap a coal stove for a clean heat pump, the carbon meter drops, but so do hospital admissions for asthma and the hours children miss due to smoke alerts. In other words, every technical gain has an immediate human dividend. The public health dividend is dramatic. The World Health Organization attributes around 4 million premature deaths per year to household and ambient air pollution. A large slice comes from coal and oil boilers. Studies in Krakow and Hebei show that replacing solid fuel heaters with gas or electric systems could cut local PM 2.5 concentrations by 20 to 40%, enough to halve wintertime emergency room visits for respiratory distress. In economic terms, the avoided sick days and medical bills rival the capital costs of installing heat pumps in the first place. Roughly one European household in 10, and far more in parts of Asia and Africa, cannot afford to keep their home adequately warm. Decarbonization can either ease that poverty or deepen it. If we electrify heat but leave houses uninsulated, electricity bills soar. If we pair electrification with deep renovation grants and time of use tariffs, low income families can see monthly savings within 2 winters. That is why the EU Social Climate Fund earmarks 86 billion euros specifically for vulnerable households. Climate policy isn't just carbon maths, it's a social protection program. Every gas boiler that comes out of a cellar creates an opening for electricians, drillers, insulation contractors, and digital control engineers. The IEA projects that meeting net zero heat targets will add a net 3 million jobs in installation and building retrofits by 2030, even after accounting for shrinking fossil fuel supply chains. Crucially, these jobs are locally anchored. You can't offshore home renovation to another continent, so the money circulates in the community. Cities competing for talent increasingly advertise clean air as a selling point. When Utrecht began phasing out oil heating and offering heat pump subsidies, average nitrogen dioxide levels in residential streets fell below EU limits 2 years ahead of schedule. Suddenly, outdoor cafes stayed busy in March and bicycle use rose, creating a virtuous loop of health, retail turnover, and civic pride. Heat decarbonization then becomes urban placemaking. Children and the elderly spend more hours indoors and therefore experience a higher share of indoor air pollution. Clean, steady indoor warmth also reduces the burden of unpaid care work. No more hauling coal buckets or tending wood fires. Meanwhile, well-insulated social housing lowers energy bills for fixed income pensioners, freeing cash for nutrition and medicine. In short, heat policy is gender policy and vulnerable groups policy. In poverty policy is health policy. Extreme weather events multiply with climate change. A district heating grid fed by heat pumps, solar collectors, and a seasonal hot water pit can ride through a gas pipeline disruption or an ice storm far better than thousands of individual oil tanks. During the 2021 Texas freeze, for example, homes with heat pumps plus modest insulation suffered less temperature drop than those reliant on gas furnaces whose supply was cut. Community scale storage is both a decarbonization and a resilience asset. Technical hardware will only carry us two-thirds of the way. Human habits close the gap. Behavior matters at three levels: what we buy, how we run it, and what norms we accept. Turning, for example, the thermostat from 22 to 20 degrees Celsius can save 10% of heating demand. Scheduling a heat pump to preheat before the evening peak lowers grid stress, that's an option too. Choosing an efficient showerhead preserves hot water comfort with less energy. Multiply small acts by millions of households and they rival a medium-sized power plant. First, purchase choices. When the existing boiler dies, replacing it with a heat pump avoids 15 tons of CO2 across its lifetime. Second, operations. Smart thermostats can learn occupancy patterns, typically cut annual space heat consumption by 15% with zero comfort loss. Third, maintenance. Cleaning filters, bleeding radiators, and updating control firmware keep performance on spec. These are not sacrifices, they are just upgraded habits. Individual action scales through collective platforms. Community bulk buy programs cut heat pump prices by a quarter. Local cooperatives can own district heat loops, keeping profits in the neighborhood. Citizens' assemblies in Leeds and Grenoble endorsed mandatory building renovation standards once they saw shared cost benefit data. Social proof accelerates technology diffusion faster than subsidies alone. Governments now must design incentives that ordinary people can navigate without a PhD. One-stop shop renovation services in Estonia bundle audits, contractor vetting, and low-interest loans so homeowners sign a single contract. Dynamic electricity tariffs that show real-time carbon intensity nudge users to run washing machines and heat pumps when the grid is greenest. Social leasing models allow low-income tenants to enjoy efficient homes without upfront capital. Now, three obstacles recur: information gaps, liquidity gaps, and trust gaps. People overestimate heat pump noise and underestimate savings. Targeted information campaigns correct that. Upfront cost scares homeowners. Zero interest on bill financing solves liquidity. Shady contractors erode confidence. Certification schemes and installer rating portals rebuild trust. Address the trio and behavioral change follows naturally. Heat decarbonization is not just a drain on public budgets. It is an engine of social renewal that cuts medical bills, lifts households out of energy poverty, cleans city air, and builds local jobs. The technical toolkit is ready. The social toolkit is dialogue, fair funding, and millions of small behavioral tweaks. Your takeaway is simple. Every thermostat setting, every renovation vote, every policy you advocate can push the heat sector from carbon liability to social asset. Let's make warmth the first visible proof that a zero carbon society is also a fairer, healthier one. Now, everything we've learned in these three sessions funnels into one simple truth. Heat is half of the world's energy appetite and nearly two-fifths of its carbon burden. Yet, it also holds some of the fastest wins for human well-being. The technical mandate is clear. Electrify the low temperature majority with heat pumps and smart storage and unleash full force innovation on the ultra hot niches of steel, cement and glass. The toolbox already sits on the workbench. Efficient envelopes, renewable networks, seasonal heat banks, green hydrogen, and where nothing else works, carbon capture. But success is not just an engineering project. Every clean heat upgrade slashes hospital visits, trims energy bills, and seeds local jobs. When citizens choose a heat pump, when cities finance district heat retrofits, when policymakers bake fairness into subsidies, warmth turns from carbon liability to social asset. The boilers will replace this decade decide the climate we live in for the next generation. Engineers, financiers, households, we each carry a piece of the puzzle. Let's fit them together so the first proof of a zero carbon society is a home that is warm, affordable, and breathable for everyone. Thank you for your attention, and remember, every tone avoided, every community protected nudges the climate dial to a safer setting.